to the Popcorn Junkies. Say hello, everyone.
Hello!
Here we all are reviewing I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Biggest problem with this film is I can't remember the bloody title of it. So this is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's a film by Charlie Kaufman, who is probably best known for writing, not directing, Being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
He's only directed one film before this.
He's directed Anomalisa, which was good. The stop-motion animated film.
Which was good. And Synecdoche.
And Synecdoche, which is...
Philip Hoffman. Yeah,
which is as impossible to say, let alone describe, as in many regards this film we're about to review is. It stars Jessie Buckley.
Who's amazing.
And it stars Jesse Plemons, who's one of our favourites from
Breaking
Game
Bad.
Night. Do you remember him in Game Night?
No.
He plays the neighbour.
Oh yes, he's amazing.
Heartbreaking character, actually.
Amazing.
And he does such unvain performances where he just doesn't mind being, well, I don't know, just being sort of really weak and pathetic.
Maybe he does mind.
Maybe he does mind. He was brilliant also, and I think in the first or second series of Fargo.
And Toni Collette.
So Toni Collette's in there too, who we obviously know from Hereditary, and David Thewlis.
Little Miss Sunshine, don't forget Little Miss Sunshine.
And David Thewlis, who is a British actor.
Who is the voice in Animalie, in his stop motion thing. He's the voice of the main character.
Right,
which
okay.
is probably why.
Is this the dad?
Yeah. And the last time I saw David Thewlis, I think he was in a Mike Leigh film.
Naked.
No, Naked.
He was good in that.
He was good in that. So what were your thoughts, having seen the trailer? What were you thinking you were going to get when you saw this?
I was excited. I think it looked really good. It looked really like unique, and it looked funny as well. I was really excited about it.
And it had all those elements that you like and we like, Maddie.
Yeah, I was
sort of indie.
Yeah. I was excited from the trailer, and it was also kind of giving me like a more whacked out version of like a Get Out vibe, the family house sort of situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, ooh, it's going to be like an indie horror, which is like one of my favourite.
Yeah, I think that's probably our favourite genre as a clutch, isn't it?
Yeah,
sort of indie horror. And I'd read many articles saying this is another riff on the taking your partner home to meet your parents.
Yeah, which is the
genre, if it's such a genre. What were you thinking as you came to it, Mum? Were you coming to it as a sort of Charlie Kaufman fan or a... Well,
having seen the two, I loved the first one. Not the stop animation, the Synecdoche one that nobody can pronounce, because it had Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, you're a big Philip Seymour fan, aren't you?
And
Phillips.
I know.
Yeah, and it was very, very similar to this. So I suppose in a way I was hoping it would be similar, and it's absolutely so similar.
Right. Since we come out of lockdown, Tenet, I don't know if you saw our review, it was so hard to describe.
Yeah.
And to give a snapshot of the plot, and this film. As soon as you think it's even harder. As soon as you think you've got a grasp on it, I suppose.
I genuinely was more confused in this film than I was in Tenet.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Suffice it to say, this is a very confusing film. But I think what we probably thought we were going to get was young woman going to visit boyfriend's parents, but she's got doubts. Yeah, but she's got doubts about whether they want that relationship. She wants the relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty safe.
I'm thinking of ending things.
I'm thinking of ending things, as we kept hearing her say. And ostensibly, that is on a surface level.
I was going to say,
what it's about.
Yeah, nothing is as it seems.
No, her visiting his parents.
I thought it started off clever. I quite liked the way it was shot. It kind of, we felt the awkwardness of the whole car journey, and it was like, by the way it was shot, feel the distance between them and everything. And I thought it was really good, but then I felt, for me, it was a bit too long.
That first scene in the car. Yeah.
I thought like it started off really clever, and I understand why the scene was needed, and you know. But for me, I was like, okay, this is getting on a bit like with her poem. I'm like, this is quite long.
It's 20 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good 20-25 minutes, almost one continuous take. What did you think?
I liked it, but I get what you mean. It went on.
Yeah, it was just like it was even just 5 minutes a bit over. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like,
well, it was long, but I could have stood even longer.
Could you in that first scene?
Yeah.
Because I really liked the original setup was a series of close-ups. One big shout out
of the walls
and items.
We were like, we already like it.
Yeah, the set design. I thought the production design was phenomenal.
You know what I thought? You know that first scene of the wallpaper?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the yellow wallpaper.
Yeah, it reminded me of that.
I absolutely thought it was going to be that.
So I thought all that was quite rich, and her voice was good, and what have you.
Yeah.
And then I quite liked even the sort of bad special effects of the snow landing on her on the street.
Yeah.
It was all quite poetic, and I liked that. And then I even liked the first 10 minutes of them in the car.
Yeah, me too.
This is interesting. I'm intrigued. It's kind of offbeat. They're both performing really well. He's very sweet. You really feel for him, don't you?
Really annoying.
Isn't that interesting? I just thought he was very sweet.
I felt for him in that
Did you?
part, yeah.
You felt really sorry for him.
Also that bit where she saw the food and he was like...
Don't. You see, that was a really interesting detail where she saw, the food there and he noticed it and he tried to cover it and hide it.
Oh.
So I didn't like her
No, me neither.
quite early on.
Oh!
No, I thought she was really mean.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey, I'm shocked by that.
I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like her performance. I didn't like her character.
No, I know what you're saying.
In fact, I so disliked her character. I wanted malevolent things to happen.
I wanted her to die.
Yeah, I really did. I didn't care about her at all.
I felt she was so cold. I just felt for him because he was trying so hard to.
Yeah.
Like even when he wants her to read the poem and she's like, no, I don't want to read the poem, and I'm like, just read the poem.
No, can I disagree with that completely?
Of course that's the point of a review.
I liked her. He was irritatingly sort of silent and lost his temper when there was nothing else that he could do, would lose his temper.
So you really identified with her?
Yeah, and also what she was having to do, and okay, it's partly in the car, but it's very much when they get to the house. She's having to negotiate her way through an absolutely ridiculous scenario.
Where, in the car?
In the house, and she does it by being, making a joke. She's very good at making jokes about things.
I know. I don't think she.
No, she is. She is.
No. I'm sure it is. I'm not saying you're not. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay.
I'm saying I don't think she did that for me though.
No,
she served to really quite. I mean, and I thought that was the point. She kind of really held me at arm's length.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't feel like
I felt.
I cared for him more than her.
Way more.
Oh, okay.
My problem with that scene, which I had a problem with a few other things in the film, is that I felt I had the constant feeling that they thought they were being so much more clever than they were. It was so conscious of its intelligence, the film, that it lost its cleverness, if that makes sense.
Was too...
And for me, for that scene, they were like, oh, this is so intelligent and this is so authentic. Everybody's going to come away from this scene and be like, wow, that was this film was a masterpiece. And that was my problem with the film. I felt it was so conscious of how clever it was being that it took away from how clever it was.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
It is clever. What can I say? It is very clever.
Well, okay.
It doesn't wear its cleverness lightly, and
I think Maddie's saying
she's very much saying
it wears it very heavily.
Wears it very heavily. Yeah.
One's saying it wears its cleverness very heavily. Well, two actually.
Wears it like armour.
Yeah. Well, you see, at this point in the film, I think I was kind of halfway between the two of you. I think I was coming at it. I was feeling a little bit of what you were feeling, Mum, because I'm up for anything that has poetry.
I was still
quotes Pauline Kael at one point they review, and then they're talking about John Cassavetes at a later point, and all that kind of stuff. So all the car stuff was good, but I was really waiting for the meat and veg of the film was when they arrived at the house.
And
I think secretly Kiki was waiting for the dog.
The dog was.
I mean, I love
in
the
the
dog.
trailer. The dog. Was
the dog that never stops shaking.
Never stops. Yeah.
So when we got into the house, how did we feel? When I was in the house, I suddenly got kind of excited.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was really good, the house setup and the kind of awkwardness of being in the whole time where they're waiting for the parents to come down for a good heart, I thought it was really clever, the fact that the house set up, and also when they're in the farm talking about the pigs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about that?
I liked that scene.
It was. Did you
it was
feel
quite
that
funny as well from Jesse Plemons.
And
what was it? He said he's life's hard on a farm.
There's always a pause and then on a farm. Life's brutal on a farm.
Life's brutal.
But you see, at that point, I thought, oh, this is really this is good.
Yeah. Can I say why you thought it was good, possibly, and why I thought it was good? It's Lynchian. It's pure David Lynch.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that.
Absolutely. Because I think what was working for me at this point, it felt like David Lynch.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. The dinner table, the chicken in front of it.
David, what did you think of the dad?
I thought the dad was so amazing.
When he was standing on the stairs, he did that weird face thing, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, no, but also the way he just looked at her like this, the whole time. And I thought Toni Collette was brilliant as well.
Yeah.
The way she was just like,
I know.
Like really nervous.
And I thought Jesse Plemons was good because his awkwardness of wanting to control the conversation.
Yeah, when he was like, Mum, it's so
times
weird.
It reminded me of Roald Dahl. It was like the twist.
And every time they went to touch him, he went like that.
Yeah.
It was
But
so
like,
weird, but
tiny movements.
it was really weird, but I liked all of that. There was a good type of weird, this part of the film.
And spatially, it was confusing, and they were suggesting so many
things. And
things.
the whole thing of like them being really old and then really young, like the parents kept changing age. But what I think baffled me the most with all of that, though, is how she was totally unfazed. Like she didn't really notice.
When I saw that she kept changing, well, the first sign I got that things weren't quite sort of straight, apart from the constantly shaking dog, was I don't know if you noticed that the dad's plaster kept moving in different places. And then when you began to realise that their ages were changing and all that kind of stuff, and I thought, okay, well, I'm even up for this.
I was too. But for me, the fact that she wouldn't question that was really... I found her character very odd. Like, I feel like from her in the first part of the film, from the first scene, you'd have expected her in that scenario to have been like, what the fuck, I need to get out of this. Yes. You know, a bit like, well, Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out, he's like, okay, you're all weird, I need to leave.
Yes.
But she just totally went along with it, which I get that, obviously that's part of the reason of the film, but it was just weird.
Where I disagree with that is that it was obvious by the end of the car journey scene that we weren't dealing with a realistic film.
No, I understand that, and I get that the whole... You know, it was a weird film and the point was that it didn't really make sense. But for me, personally, I feel like even with weird films, it needs to in some way have a plot develop, like it needs to in some way make sense and have something that the viewer can be like, oh, I understand that. But for me, this film was trying so hard to be whacked out and weird that for me it was just like, I'm all up for watching weird stuff. Like I love David, Midsommar, I love David Lynch. Like, but even with, like me and Dad were saying, even with David Lynch, there's an element of responsibility to
the narrative.
To the audience to make some kind of sense. But her character was just a completely different person in each scene that for me I just couldn't like settle enough with anything. And even though the film was weird and I liked at points how strange it was, I wanted to be able, as a viewer, to be able to settle with the film, and I couldn't because the film felt like such a completely different thing each time.
Did you find the way in which it kept breaking with logical character development? Did that jar? Was that
no? I my favourite bit was in the house, like
me too.
The door and stuff, and I found it so creepy. I was covering my ears all the time. I really liked them like changing and stuff. I didn't really notice her not
responding.
I think if I had done it, wouldn't have been as creepy. Just changing.
So you just bought into the kind of building of atmosphere.
I thought for me, my favourite part of the film was the house.
I know what you're saying.
But for me, it was like there was that really weird bit where she put her head on the dad's shot. Like I couldn't really tell what was going on. Like also when she saw the photo of herself on the wall, I was like, wait, so is she actually the daughter, or is she?
You were wanting to read a story into.
I wanted a bit more.
But I do think, Mum, I do think it's. You know, I think the difficulty, you're saying that like it's a self-evident truth. It's just an abstract film, don't try and read a story into it. It was very Lynchian, but even with David Lynch, there's a sense of causal effect, however disjointed or dislocated it is.
Twin Peaks?
There's a sense of, even in that, there's a sense of purpose. Something's driving you to what the next illogical
there's like
move
at
is.
Least a main event that it's all drawn towards, whereas this had like 5.
For me, that scene was the richest scene in the film. In the house. And then at the point that it started to flip all over the place, this has to connect with the janitor. Because we haven't mentioned the janitor. So, I mean, and having done some research into it subsequently, the janitor is the pivotal point of the film. But, and this is my point, when I'm watching a film, I don't want to go and watch a film and have to have read everything up about it before I react to it coherently or in a natural way. I don't want to be told I need to watch out for the janitor. When I later discovered that the janitor, all of this film is potentially the fictionalized thought processes of the janitor, of the life that he could have had, or the life that he was hoping to have had.
Could be.
It makes sense. It makes sense after the event, but during the event of watching the film, it didn't.
The janitor bits, I was like, who are you?
No, in actual fact, I would agree with Maddie with that bit. I didn't think the janitor.
That was such a weird.
I didn't read it as that.
But this is where I get really annoyed with films that do this, which is you're supposed to read it as that. I do feel that this film got slightly caught up in its own cleverness.
No.
What were you getting from that?
He didn't want the audience to get it.
But then what's the point?
Well,
I'm going to make a film so that you don't understand it.
Well,
just because I want to. But like,
he has said that.
So I really enjoyed all of the house stuff. But there were so many things that they completely let go of that could have been such a good film. Like, why was there scratches on, I probably just missed, I probably missed something, but why were there scratches on the door? What was she, you know, when she went down, she saw the paintings in the basement.
But they'd already dealt with that by talking about conventional horror films. I mean, what he did was he set up scenes and then put a line through them by saying, you know, oh, we all know a horror film where you're not supposed to go down into the thing.
No, we know that's what he's doing.
No, I know, but it annoyed me.
This is what really gets me about purposefully obtuse films.
Yeah, and he has said...
And I think this is, what I mean by that is purposefully confusing. You know, it sets out to confuse. It reminds me a bit of James Joyce once wrote a book called Ulysses, and there's a letter somewhere which he sent to someone saying, I hope my book is baffling academics in 100 years' time. The moment I read that book, I took Ulysses and held it over my shoulder because I thought this isn't about working ideas out, this is about just baffling people. And my problem,
why isn't that a legitimate thing to do?
Because just baffling people is, I think, arrogant, and I think it's intimidating, and I think it's exploitative intellectually. I think you can generally maybe.
Kiki didn't feel that though. Interestingly.
No. But so after we got out of that scene, once that scene had finished, what did you feel after the kind of house scene?
I didn't like the film once they left the house. I only liked it. Yeah. As soon as they left the house, I was like, this is just lost it.
What about the ice cream scene?
That was
pure Lynch, wasn't it? That was pure Lynch.
That was so good, but it was thrown away.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
felt. I was literally laughing by the end of the film because I just found
I was just like, what?
Well, we'll get to what happens in the end.
Well, you can't really say it was thrown away because by saying it's thrown away, you're asking for a completely different film.
I get that he wanted to confuse people and that was the point of the film. And I get that what I wanted from the film wasn't what the film was. But for me, looking at it and having not enjoyed a lot of the film, I think that what they should have done was that there should have been a clearer objective. There wasn't a clear objective with the film. Pretty much every scene within that film was a completely different movie. Nothing merged together, and I had a problem with that. Like, I like whacked out stuff. I'm not very conventional, but like I love indie films. I love films that don't make sense. But for me, confusing and whacked out films are cleverer when they haven't gone at it where they're like, I'm doing this because I want to confuse and baffle everyone. They try to do something that is confusing and whacked out, but there's an element of understanding, but it ends up being like, oh, I don't quite get that, but I like that.
When it was great, like Kiki says, I thought the two scenes were standout scenes.
Yeah.
The dinner table.
Almost, well, the dinner table scene within the house. I think the house scene lost itself when they started to get so old, and they played it brilliantly.
Yeah, they did.
I thought all the acting in it was brilliant.
How they kept on, you know, how they knew what they were doing.
That's what Dad said at one point in the film. Like, surely they're at this point going, what am I doing? But they still managed.
Am I old? Young?
Yeah, but they still managed to perform it in a way that.
And so my absolute hats off, literally, to the cast. I thought they did a wondrous job. The production design was beautiful. The camera work was gorgeous. From a filmmaking perspective, I want to give the film 20 out of 1 for finding countless different ways of shooting them through the windows of the car. I mean, and I thought I really liked the sense of being obscured and the sense of seeing things through a mist. It gave it a real dreamlike quality. And I also get, and I'm sure the girls got this too, that it was a film all about aging, about the choices we make, about the lives we lead, about the potential lives we haven't led. My analogy for the film was, it was like I kept putting the key into an old-fashioned car. It kept igniting, and as it threatened to kind of take, it would then kick out again, and it would...
Like the ice cream bit was a throwaway that had so much potential to follow on with the film, but like...
I think that was one of your favourite bits, because that for me was really...
That was so scary. Also the rash.
They were going to tell us what was going on.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get some kind of explanation. You know, the disease on her arm, so Lynch.
And then he also had the same one.
He had it on his hand.
And like also when they arrive at the school and they look in the bins and it's full of all of the ice cream pots.
It's not just aging, it's compatibility.
Sure.
Which is huge, because that's what the title is, and that's what the whole scene in the car is about.
Yeah.
Are these people compatible or aren't they? And what if they're not? Why not? Because as she says, he's bright. He can answer every question that every quote that she does, every statement that she makes. He can counter it. So in that sense, this is where I felt. I mean, it didn't make me change my mind over the character, but it made me feel really sorry for Jesse Plemons as a man, because I thought they've chosen him because he's ugly. Oh. They've chosen him because he's like not very pretty. There's a line in it where somebody says, he says, I think, why is it that pretty always gets, or it might have been the girl in the ice cream thing. But anyway, there's a line.
All of that stuff I thought the film was really good on. I thought where it got sort of unnecessarily complicated was where it went off into these great long monologues where they were talking about John Cassavetes, that he was quoting Pauline Kael, the film critics review. She was reading poetry, and I liked all that. I mean, what was the theory at one point? Me and you were on the same page, weren't we? I thought that the
parents
were them. At one point I thought what was going to be shown up was they were actually, these are the younger versions of them as older people.
Because then when they left the house in the car, she was starting to forget stuff like the mum.
That's
right. And and they both laughed in a similar, like they're both that giggling.
So, but I mean, I've sort of felt at the beginning, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh my God,
this is like a scene from the film.
Oh my God, I've completely
forgotten. Mum,
if you walk out and come back in 16 years younger.
That's what annoyed me about the film, because there was so much potential in the great scenes that it just frustrated me when it lost itself, because I was like, if you had just given the potential, if you'd just given it the potential, then it could have been a great film.
I've remembered what I was going to say. I mean, I thought at the beginning of it that it was going to be far more coherent in the sense of I kept seeing bits where I thought yellow wallpaper for the wallpaper. I kept thinking parents when we were watching the parents. I thought it was going to turn into that type.
I was thinking Roald Dahl. I got a lot of Roald Dahl.
I didn't get any Roald Dahl.
Me too.
That play was sort of into my head. What, you remember the Twits we saw at
it was very
theatre?
They got those vibes.
But but in actual fact, and here's the killer, I don't actually disagree with Maddie over this at all. One of the things I did think, especially when I saw it the first time, was who other than somebody who's he studied American literature and poetry and is a librarian and who knows all these effing people would be able to cope with this. Nobody.
I could have done, and I didn't want to.
No, okay,
and that's my point.
But you see, the reason I said about Kiki, did Kiki stay to the end? It's absolutely
I mean, I can't think of any other girl your age who would have stuck with a film like this.
Or even my age. I don't know people my age would have watched that.
But it was.
That's why I was surprised it was on Netflix, to be honest. It's not really a Netflix viewer.
No. You know, when you get a film that, if for its own sake, is so weird, and I did feel that. There are many times in the film where, for its own sake, it was too weird.
Especially towards the end.
What about the final scene? What about what was going through your head at the point that they broke into
No, I genuinely was laughing.
The dance. What were the dances?
She was on the floor.
Is there some clever explanation?
So why did they move over to dance?
There was dancing in Jordan Peele's film that none of us questioned.
In what? In Us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that made she's a ballerina.
No, but I mean there was just as much. I mean no,
and they were also killing each other at the time they were doing that. These weren't even Jessie Buckley and Jessie Plemons, were just some dancers.
I don't know. And in actual fact, when I first saw that scene, I looked up at the ceiling and I was thinking, oh fuck, I don't know what to say. Why the hell has he gone to dance? But then what I was going to say to you guys,
the pig.
Oh no, the pig was
being naked,
and he was naked.
The him being naked.
I knew as soon as he took his clothes off, I thought he's gonna. Oh no!
What if I was to say that this whole film was the imaginings of what the janitor wished his life had become, but actually it was his last thoughts?
Actually, he was just naked following a pig
before committing suicide.
Oh.
Dog.
Why did he follow a pig? What was the?
But also that makes me feel less about it than if I didn't know that.
Hey?
I thought that makes me feel less about the film than I did in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sort of get cross in the way that Maddie is in terms of they're trying to be too clever, and I do like learning that is worn lightly, as I always say. That wasn't. It was in your face. It was slapping you around the face, saying, "Have you ever heard of John Cassavetes? Have you ever heard of Jenna Rollins? Slap, slap, slap." I don't agree with that, but at the same time,
I just thought those scenes were a big ask of any
They were a big ask, but they were asking.
Yeah, no, I know, but sometimes I get really worried. I get so frustrated when a film, because he obviously can do scenes like the house scene, and I have to say, I think the ice cream parlour in the snow scene was perfectly conceived.
And the script was really good.
Did you feel it was so Lynchian at that point?
Yes, but I don't care. I mean, we have genres of films and we don't say it's like that, it's like that. It's like, give me a Lynchian scene.
But the bits that he was trying to do that were different, like in the sense of her walking from room to room and saying something that could have been her, and seeing the scratches on the door and the constantly shaking thing. I mean, in that sense, he was trying to do something maybe that wasn't just
Yes,
Lynchian.
I agree. Lynch will screw with your mind, play with time, rewind shit, take you everywhere, do everything, play with plot and everything. But the thematics come out of it quite naturally.
Yeah.
You're left thinking, what is my body? Who am I? What is sexual politics? What is going on between Frank Booth and Isabella Orser? What is looking? What does looking involve? This started so many thoughts about aging, life chosen, compatibility. That's a really rich theme. And it did it in one scene. It kind of dealt with that, and the rest of it just felt irrelevant to me.
What did you think of the scene where they were at the dinner table and it's such a good scene, and I think it was Tony Collette asked how they'd met. I love a good story.
I loved that dinner table scene. Was my favourite scene of the film.
And when she was in the school talking to the giant, and then she's like, I was with my girlfriend at the pub, and
then I was starting to think, is she a lesbian, and just because she can't say no, she's
no, she didn't mean that type of girlfriend. She just
but then she just said my
girlfriend. It was our anniversary. She said
because she'd been saying girlfriend the whole time before. I was just like, oh, it's a girl, it's a friend. Then she said it was with my girlfriend anniversary, and I've always been told by my mum to say yes, and that's why when he came, like I was starting to think that she's not even.
Oh, I didn't go as
and
far
that was
as to
her
think what she
girlfriend
was.
that was messaging her.
Yeah, she kept getting those phone calls.
Lucy
Why wouldn't you take the phone call?
Her name changed about 5 times. The job that she'd done changed about 5 times. The way that
David
they
Hewlett
met
is
changed.
faster
So in terms of, there was no way, he wasn't expecting us to find a conventionality in it. We either had to enjoy what we were watching, or...
I do think you have some responsibility for...
As a director.
I don't disagree with that. I don't
and the musical, the singing bit was...
Oh, guys, tell us what you think about the ending.
The end scene.
I wonder whether Charlie Kaufman is a much better scriptwriter, i.e. Eternal Sunshine being John Malkovich adaptation. I think maybe he needs to write and then be directed. Okay, well, let's sum up. Nanny died.
I have 2 different marks for this film. I've got a mark for generally and a mark for me. I felt like I was at a librarian's conference in the film. I mean, there was the poetry, there was the novel, there was the, it was Pauline Kael impersonations. There was absolutely everything. And I think Jessie Buckley was amazing. To have done all of that with her accents and everything was just fantastic.
Oh yeah, her accents.
I loved it. I mean, I really loved it. But I did keep thinking, although it sounds as if I didn't think this because I didn't say it in the first place, but the responsibility to the viewer. I mean, I thought Kiki would have been lost long ago, so I'm amazed that she wasn't. So in terms of the actual what we were being told, and I felt like I was at a lecture, I would give it about 90. And I like the way it looked and everything, but in terms of a responsibility to the viewer, I'd give it about 60.
Right. Well, first of all, I thought that the cast was brilliant. You can't fault the performances from any of them. And I know, especially if I was in that film, I would have been like, "What the fuck am I doing?" And I thought Jessie Buckley's performance was brilliant. Her accent was great. That's just for me. I felt with her character, her being the main character, I felt so distanced from her that it made the film even more disjointed for me because I couldn't settle with her character. I think partly the problem is that I'd seen the trailer, and the trailer was giving us such a completely different film to what it ended up being. Because from the trailer I was expecting just the house setup, which was my favourite part. That scene at the dinner table for me was my favourite scene of the film. And I thought it started, I mean literally, when it started, me and Dan went, we already love it. And I was expecting something from it.
All of us were bang on.
And even like the first 10 minutes of the car scene, I was like, this is clever, and then it was too long, and I was like, okay, you're clever. I liked it at first, the age thing, that they were older and then they were younger, but then it was too much. And then I was really disappointed when they left the house and we were only like not even halfway through the film. I was like, what? And then I thought what was going to happen was that they were going to drive off and then end up back at the house.
Yes,
and I was going to be like, oh cool, but we didn't. So for me, I just felt like the film was so conscious of its, like I said, intelligence, that it ended up being just too whacked out that it was almost stupid for me anyway. I also love, my second favourite scene was, probably actually my favourite, was the ice cream bit. I thought that was so chilling.
Tinseltown.
And I loved her whole, it gave me Twin Peaks vibes. And I hope the rash on her and everything, and then the fact that she was like, I'm scared for you, don't move forward. But then there was never any consequence.
Potentially,
but then there was nothing ever happened to, like, what was she scared for? Like, there weren't consequences from that scene, do you know what I mean? And I just felt like there was so much potential in the good scenes that it just, to be honest, this film more than anything just made me angry, because I was like, the potential it could have had, and you just throw it out the window by trying to confuse everybody. You know, I'm up for confusing films and whacked out that don't make sense, but like we've said, there's an element of trust that you have to have from your audience, where they're like, okay, I trust that at least the ending of this film is going to make sense. And the ending of this film literally just had me like, what the, what? I didn't understand in a bad way. And I thought that the cartoon pig was ridiculous. It was just stuff, it was laughable really for me. It was so ridiculous. I was just like, okay, I've had enough. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this film. It was too long for me. And I'd probably I'd only give it this because of the performances and the scenes I liked. Probably only 15 out of
15? Wow.
Out of 100.
Yeah, wow.
I thoroughly
didn't like it.
Didn't enjoy it,
I was so excited about when I saw the trailer. I thought it was going to be like similar to Get Out, and Get Out's like one of my favourite films.
Yeah, you had high expectations.
Yeah, I also really liked it at the beginning. Like, the first scene was a bit long, but I was like, oh, it's fine, let's like just let it go. And then they got to the house, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really smart and stuff. But literally, as soon as they left the house, I was like, oh my god, what is going on? And they just weren't giving me any clues, and I was like, just give me like one clue.
I agree.
And I was just, I was getting bored, because I was like, I don't know, I literally didn't understand the film. What was it about? I loved the ice cream bit.
It was really good.
I got really excited, because I was like, oh, she's gonna like give a clue to like what's going on. But then they just, like you said, they just let it go, like they didn't bring it up again.
Yeah.
I also wanted it to be really creepy, like when she was at the house, I was like, oh, something's gonna happen to her.
Yeah.
With the basement and stuff. With the scratches on it, I was like, that's so scary.
Yeah.
That's really
It was creepy in its own way.
Yeah, but I wanted them to explain what it was.
Something to come out of it.
Oh, I see, yeah, you wanted more.
And then her going in, and then her paintings of that, like none of it made sense, and I was just like, what's the point in making it? Like, I literally messaged my friends after, because my friend was like, oh, I'm going to watch. I was like, don't, because you're literally going to waste your time. I felt like I wasted so much time watching that.
Yeah.
And I only stayed till the end, because I was like, oh, maybe they're going to explain it. But they just didn't. It was just them singing. Turn it to a musical. So I'd give it 20, just for the beginning. Yeah. Because I loved the beginning so much, but then it just...
Yeah, okay. Didn't you think that was wonderful when David Thewlis, said, how can you be sad if you haven't got a sad person?
Oh, I love that.
Being
I love
sad.
That.
I love them talking about painting.
I just thought it was wonderful.
That scene.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I think this was a film with so much potential. I don't mean to sound patronising. This is Charlie Kaufman. He's like a doyen, isn't he, of indie cinema and screenwriting and all that kind of stuff. It was like every time he thought it wasn't confusing enough, he revisited his script and the scenes and thought, let's just roll the dice again and make it still more confusing. Let's keep turning that dial up. Let's take it to 11. Okay, well, let's now reverse it round. I mean, I'm amazed we didn't have a fetus at one point. I mean, then I suppose it would have been a Razorhead, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I thought even in its eeriness, I get what you're saying, Mom. I think Peaky was wanting maybe a more conventional payoff to that eeriness. Yeah. You're saying, but wasn't it just eerie in itself?
Yeah.
Well, it was, and it really wasn't. It had all the potentiality to be really fucking eerie and odd and strange and disturbing. And yet it kind of pulled its punches. It didn't kind of go there fully. It kept raining, it kept pulling itself back.
I think the car scenes ruined it.
Yeah, the car scenes ruined it. The only time it got to its most sinister, and he proved as a director that he can cover the scene and present this sort of thing, was the ice cream stop with the girl and the girls at the back, and the two girls just sitting there, just giggling. I thought that was brilliant.
Again, that was about attractiveness.
Of course. Going with the idea that the janitor that we've kind of parked to one side is clearly critical. Again, I think it's a bit simplistic to just cross-cut and intercut to something completely different and assume that the viewer just has to kind of make that connection. That's what I mean. That's when I get frustrated with directors who clearly can do, it requires a little bit of creative thinking. You can even make the connection abstract, but make the connection still. Yeah. I thought there was no effort made at kind of ironing out just some of the wrinkles in this. Yes, there are great themes and their topics, around compatibility, age, the passage of time, the lives we didn't lead, the choices we made, the sliding doors, all that kind of stuff.
Whoa,
the idea of no, but they were all flicked into the air and then just like so what? Just like it was. I felt it was a film full of hot air that had moments of kind of and then just never knew how to capitalise on them. I think it lost me totally in the second car scene. I was fidgeting, I was bored, I was disappointed. I felt all of us went from investment in this film to, oh God, what is this gonna... And then when it turned into this strange sort of carnival of, you know, dancing and pigs and...
We were laughing so hard at the time.
You know, I mean, I know for a fact that people are going to go back to this and people are going to watch this review and say, you've got to watch it 20 times, 30 times. Sorry, I haven't got enough, I'm not going to watch it, I haven't got time to watch it 30 times. I like watching films twice, but I'm not going to watch this 30 times to try and work it out. There's not enough... It's a bit of the Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
I felt it was a bit of the Emperor's New Clothes. It was like it was pouncing around, thinking it was something that it really wasn't. Quite literally, the Emperor's New Clothes at the end, with him walking through the school corridors with no clothes on.
Yeah.
So I would say it was pregnant with self-importance. To quote Nadia, it had tickets on itself. It bought tickets to see itself.
That,
Thought, I'm rather smart. I think I'm rather clever. I'm on Netflix. I'm Charlie Kaufman. It's really cool. And I'm going to give it... I'm probably going to give it 17.5 between the two of you.
Yeah.
Out of 100.
I was thinking
gave
it
90.
What did you give it? 90.
I don't know, I'm a bit on my own.
No, that's good. That's the point. Well, there you go, guys. What do you think?
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.